in an email. I said that, and I'm talking to other churches about this. We don't have any churches on the island now. What they have small congregations and big lots. With the Resilient Lee money, the community development block grant, disaster recovery money, there's a chance that we can do something. They say to think big. So what I'm proposing, and in both that committee and to some of the churches, is that the town uses block grant money to buy the majority of the lot, and uses the block grant money to build workforce housing that then is turned over to a housing entity similar to Sanibel or the county that uses objective criteria to allocate those spots, meaning they are that it's like number of years as a full-time employee on the island. You get extra points if you're a teacher, you're a cop, if you're a fireman, if you work for the town, you get extra points, and then it's allocated by a point system. So it's not putting your brother in there. It's not putting, not a friends and family thing. It's true workforce housing to benefit both the workers on the island, the town, and the businesses.
Well, that's out of the box thinking, because a lot of that money has to be used for workforce housing or low income, low to meet
70%. Has to be LMI, low to moderate income, and you can go through with the way you set up your workforce housing. You can qualify for that by your rules.
Now, what piece of land are you thinking about?
Well, this is one I made an offer here, and then the other idea, part of the idea, is that the church takes the proceeds from selling their portion of the land, plus public assistance and insurance if they have it. I understand Sean doesn't have it, but there's public assistance money, and then they build a smaller church on a smaller lot. So you save a church and you get workforce housing if we can get the grant money for it.
So you're thinking about for every single church that was lost?
I think that the offer would, we'd probably put an offer anywhere, any church that's interested in it. I've had some conversations with one church, and they were positive. They got a positive response from it. My preference is in areas they're not quite as single family home as here, because this is surrounded 360 degrees by single family homes, and in transparency, including mine.
Right. Right. So do you know for sure that grant money, that money that in that committee, which is the Kevin Ruane committee, is available for that? You know for sure that you'd be able to get that to buy property, and then
I don't make the final decision on it.
Okay.
And but that's the intent of the money. This is HUD money, right? And so it's meant for housing. And there's some other things you can do, but 70% has to go to that. Now, the downside, the idea of workforce housing is live where you work. If you take money and you build a workforce housing project in Lehigh, it's really affordable housing. It's not really workforce, because there are a lot of people go there and go to jobs somewhere else. Same with Cape Coral, right? People leave Cape Coral to go over the bridge. That's why the traffic is so bad, because their job is somewhere else. The idea of workforce housing is live where you work. In order to live where you work, you got to build the housing here.
Right.
Now, it qualifies technically, but it's a lot of money and you get a lot of hands out for it. So I'm proposing this. I have another proposal. I've got a list. I probably put a dozen different things in there, and you've heard a lot of them probably in town council. I would like to widen Stara Boulevard, put in the bike lane all the way. That may not qualify for this as much because it's not housing.
Right.
But we have a low to moderate income area on the beach, as I'm being told, which is from the bridge to town hall and Bayward of that. It's considered it's more than 51% low to moderate income people. The numbers they're using are from the 2011 to 2015.
I think they changed that. I heard they changed that to the last census. That's what I heard recently. But
if you go, last I heard, they were saying that.
Okay.
But then
things change all the time.
I was in someone's office, and they went onto the HUD site, and it forwarded them to that 2011 to 2015 American.
So right now, that's the way it is.
And
gotcha.
I was also told out by the USDA, which also uses that.
Yeah. So how do you advance this idea that you have about the churches and the workforce housing? What's your next step with that? How do you move that forward?
I'm on the committee. I'm on that Resilient Lee committee. I'll bring it up in the committee. We have a series of stages that we go through, and I'm not fully knowledgeable about all the different stages these committees are doing. They're collecting a lot of input from a lot of people, but it's run by the county. Right, the county staff is the one that I think are putting it together, along with Haggerty consultants, and Kevin Ruane is also an important piece of this puzzle. So I'm sure one of the downsides we have is our price per door is going to be higher because our land is more expensive. Right. But that's something you have to do if you want to have people live where they work. You have to build where the work is.
So
and eventually, I will when we get to a certain point in the road, I'll try to engage council. Council has already heard these ideas.
Okay.
maybe not quite as specifically, because a lot of them are still evolving, but then we'll engage the council, engage with the community, have them try to lobby for us, try to get the word out, talk to our state representatives and our federal representatives and make sure that
working hard.
Yeah, because the money's coming from them.
Yeah.
The county's distributing it.
Now, the fact that you live in the neighborhood aside, there's no way an 8-story condo is going on this piece of property, is there? There's no way that's going to happen.
Well, I can't speak for council.
Come on.
I can't speak for council.
Common sense, though. Come on.
I think it's,
how do you see that fitting on that piece of property at all in this neighborhood with the rules, the way they're set up?
It is inconsistent, but every rule can be bent. Part of what this takes, if it needs a change, which even the developer told me it does, and it does, in my knowledge too, takes a change in a comprehensive plan. That has to go to the state for approval. That takes like a year, just for the state kind of to
but they could do their own CPD and work it through that way, right?
I think the comprehensive plan is still that ceiling,
I see.
Right? It's like we had the FAR discussion, and people kind of freaked out. That's one piece of the puzzle. They still have all the other height restrictions and everything else, but it didn't make sense for people to say you want an FAR of a gazillion if you're not going to use it, right?
Well, just from walking around and talking to people in the neighborhood, though, the people in the neighborhood are freaking out.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. So, and the council and the LPA listens to the people in the neighborhood. They live here.
I know a good neighbor of mine, a friend of mine, and his house was destroyed. He's slowly working to figure out how he's going to rebuild. He's doing the insurance, FEMA, bank, all that dance. I tell him that every time he gets his ducks in a row, they move the ducks around.
Right.
But he told me if this thing goes through, he's going to sell his lot. He's lived here like 40 years. His kids, the only house his kids have ever known is a house that was destroyed.
Right.
I also know, another neighbor she used to go to the church in. She's not in favor of it, And then there's someone who has a house that is destroyed. And they have a lot, and they are thinking of selling the lot because of the threat of this kind of development.
Yeah. So do you think there's any condo size that people would be okay with on this piece of property if you were just shooting the breeze?
Well, residential within the densities are allowed, right? Well, right now they're zoned institutional.
Right. They'd have to get that changed first.
They have to get it zoned to something. But if it's zoned residential, you're allowed a certain density. They could always do that. That would be an easy path. If we can get the grant money, that's more complicated because we don't have control over that.
Yeah.
But if we can get the grant money, if the county is agreeable, and I think it's a
great idea.
Well, I think talking to Kevin Wren, he likes to leverage things, right? He's a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get money from somewhere else to help with it, he's all for that. If you can save a church, that puts you higher up on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And plus you save a church. Churches are important.
Right. And you could do all that without the condo then, right? You could work it maybe without all that.
It all depends on, what they can get for public assistance. And, the variable part there is how much land do you have to sell to do it? So instead of this equation was how big of a condo do you have to build to get his big church with all those units that he controls, and that's what they came up with, a huge tower.
Right? Yes.
The other side of the equation is if you have 3.5 acres, you have to sell 2.5. How much you have to sell under the usual whatever things are praised at? What do you have to sell to be able to afford to build back your church?
Right.
And then like everything else, like you and I, right? Well, your house is probably okay. I've got to do value engineering on my own house. I got to figure out what I can afford to build back.
Right. How is everything coming with your house? You got slammed.
Yeah, well, you can see I have my garage left. It's just 5 years old. It's built to FEMA elevations, but apparently in the V zone, which is on the coastal side, they have a DEP elevation as well. And they're telling me now, you look at this matrix, that was perfectly legal to build, but if I want to build around it now, I need to be 4.5 feet taller. So I just don't think that the constraints of of keeping the garage and the expense of raising it up and then repairing it, because it doesn't really fix it up, would just not make it feasible.
So have you made the decision to take it down and rebuild?
We're pretty close.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's 8 months later and you're still trying to figure out what to do, right? But everybody is. Everybody is.
Yeah.
So,
and, trailer life is a stretch.
I was just saying that to Pastor Sean. I mean, camping is fun, but for years.
Well, I think when you're camping, you wake up to some birds chirping in the morning. I wake up to debris trucks rumbling by 10 feet away from my trailer, and it's like a vibrating bed. I mean,
I have to say one thing about those guys in the black trucks. They are freaking heroes. I mean, just seeing them every weekend working and picking up debris, and they've been doing it for months and months and months.
Yeah.
And the guys on the canals that have been doing it, it's just been because it was never ending. The debris still seems like it's never ending. More houses have to come down, and there's it was crazy, just crazy.
And
they're doing a great job.
And I heard a number this morning, but I haven't really verified it myself. It was at a meeting I was at. They said that they spent $4.4 billion just debris removal since the storm.
In all of Lee County, or just
I think I might be statewide. It's
wow,
$1 billion. And see, those guys are making bank. You know they are.
Yeah.
And early on in the storm, when it was really new, there was this couple that are out there doing it, and they're hauling, some of my stuff away. And there were a couple from, I think, Arkansas, married couple. They're out there.
That's their job.
They've been on the road 5 months.
Nice.
I thought he was up there in his little throne ordering her around, and I thought, well, I wouldn't get away with that. But apparently they were working.
Apparently in Arkansas, that's okay, right?
Maybe.
All right, Bill. Well, thanks for the insight, and it'll be interesting to watch what happens next down here with your idea. I mean, we'll follow that. We're going to have Kevin on the show next Saturday too, so I'll see if I could prod him a little bit on whether he thinks that'll work. So.
Yeah, will do. And I probably will mention it. We really haven't mentioned any specifics in the Resilient Lee meeting. And I don't know quite when that's supposed to happen, but I'm going to throw these ideas out.
Yeah.
And there's another idea too that the fire department is talking about doing something different
at their property.
Yeah, maybe not using that property, use something else. And then they're talking about going a little farther away, maybe San Carlos Island, because they need a training facility. And they figure putting a fire department training facility in a dense neighborhood might not make the neighbors very happy.
Probably not.
So they're looking at it. So if we get the funding, maybe we could buy all those places and make a civic center that includes the workforce housing and town hall and Bay Oaks.
Yeah.
So it means that people living in workforce housing, they have a pool, they have a gym.
Yeah. I have to ask you, I just remembered it because I know you've been pushing on this with Times Square, and it just seems to be going nowhere. Yeah. What is going on? Why isn't there been like a planner or some kind of committee, or why it just seems like it's just sitting there like a,
there are some ideas, but it's also a really tough nut. It's a difficult one to solve. A lot of the things that, and I have like 5 different potential ways to make it work. I don't think any of them are really particularly good.
Okay.
Because even if we, probably the most expensive idea is you raise the whole thing up, right? Everyone builds up the flood. You put a boardwalk up there. You talk to the county. They put bathrooms. They put, Lynn Hall Park facilities up there because they've got to do that anyway. You put the pier up there, and maybe you build a parking garage, across the street and have that access by level. But I think a lot of people feel that they're just not going to get business up high up off of the beach. The fun part about Times Square was really great, but it was just so casual because people are walking through to go to the sand.
I don't know. I think that people like to people watch the whole Nashville up on the second floor thing. Plus, you don't really have a choice, do you? It can never go back to being on the ground floor. It's got to go higher.
Yeah, I know. I know they changed and I haven't looked at it yet. They changed the flood maps recently, so now they have this new thing called Coastal A. And that apparently is where Margaritaville is, the old cigar hut bathrooms are going to build. Yes. That they're allowed to do something there. I don't know where that line is in Times Square. I know where the line is down here.
Yeah.
But it's expensive to do that. And if you're strictly V zone, what I'm told is the only thing you're allowed to do on the ground level is parking and access. So stairs and cars. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And you got so many different business owners, and you got the town that owns the middle part of it and the counties that own both sides. There's a lot of people that need to agree on things. At least I was talking to a county commissioner today about, asking if they have it come. I've heard rumors that they're working on a plan. He claimed that, well, they're not. They're trying to keep their hands off because they don't want to step on our toes. But,
they do own the pier. It could be nice if they rebuilt that. That's a good starting point.
They're the biggest property owner down there. Yeah. So they have a say anyway. And certainly, we don't want to do something and then put elevators and stairs and all that. And they do something next door and they put elevators and stairs, because you got to be ADA compliant. So
it's going to be a long process, but thanks so much.
It is. And there's a lot of things, a lot of people think they really need a lot of density to do something, or they just want a lot of density. I was reading a story that they had our mayor and they had the mayor of Sanibel on, and there was 2 different stories. Dan was about working with people. Sanibel was like, this is our comp plan. If you want a variance, don't come.
Where do you fall?
I believe in working with people and giving density and things if there is a genuine public benefit.
Gotcha.
Right? Yeah. And I didn't get that much from Moss Marine. They claim they're not going to have a traffic impact with 3 hotels and a bunch of restaurants, and they're going to be having deliveries through residential streets, which to me is a recipe.
That traffic,
for
that traffic guy they had was horrible. It was terrible.
Yeah, I just called him out on. He thought that extra lane of traffic coming over the bridge was a game changer. And you ride your bike, that's gonna be a bicycle killer. Yeah. And the fire department there would be a parking lot, and they wouldn't be able to get the fire trucks around. So there's a lot of issues with some of the things they did, and their big public benefit they say is having the boardwalk. But the boardwalk, my understanding is that's a setback. They have to, this platform they're going to build is not a deck. It's 10 feet up in the air, right? It's a parking lot. It gets them up to their elevation, but they have to be so far away from the water by code. So that area, they can't.
I see. I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know that. You hear some of these proposals that these people want to come down here with, and you hear them, and I think, do you pay attention? Like, have you been watching anything? Like, have you heard any of the people on this community? What are you thinking? It's like, how you got to be nuts.
Well,
and I don't mean that about Moss Marine. It's just some of the other rumors that you hear about different things that people want to build in areas.
And I hear you probably hear more. You're probably more connected to the Coconut Telegraph. Well, you're part of the Coconut Telegraph.
That's true.
That's probably why. But I get I'm meeting. Someone once called me and said, "Well, we have the president of our development company is coming into Naples. Would you come down and meet him?" And I'm like, "Okay, before I drive an hour there, an hour back, what are we meeting about?" They wouldn't tell me. Yeah. So I suspect this company bought some land. They want to put something in that they're probably not allowed to, and they want to
work your angle. Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting decade ahead. It seems like it's going to take a lot of years because there's so many different pieces of the island that need to be fixed.
And if you'd have told me that it would be like over 7 months later, and I'd still be
living
in there with my garage, I would thought you're crazy. But I know a lot of people in the same boat. We still have a really strong neighborhood. If you saw them, there were a lot of them around here.
Oh yeah.
And
I've heard
we've gotten a lot tighter since the storm.
Yeah.
We're like family.
Yeah. I've heard that about all the different neighborhoods that we go down and talk to people. It's like, even though they're not HOAs, they're like their little HOAs. They take care of each other. They look out for each other, whether it's Hibiscus or some of the other streets.
Yeah. Just Hibiscus. When I get a reporter, I take them down to Hibiscus.
Yeah.
Because it looks like the red coconut. They've embraced the trailer. They're fixing up the road, the little ring on their cul-de-sac. They've planted it. They've, they're, and you talk to people in Andre Mar, they're equally passionate. And I heard so many stories out of people in Andre Mar after the storm. I spent some time down there, have some friends. You can see why people get so tight when you go through that kind of hell.
Oh, yeah. All right, Bill, thanks a lot. We appreciate you coming on. It's always great to have you on the show. Bill Veach, everybody, Councilman Bill Veach, and we will see you at the next town council meeting. Yes, which is the first week in June. And he's got some great ideas about workforce housing that we're going to ask Kevin Ruane about next Saturday. So just to remind everybody, we have these prize packages for Saturday that are unbelievable. Like, you have to listen to the show on Saturday, not because I'm going to be entertaining or we're going to be entertaining. We do have great guests as always, but we have these prize packages. It just turned out to be like unbelievable, like stays